All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we look at what wide receivers might shake free for the 49ers at the cutdown later this summer. It's a little pro personnel exercise that we often used to do, and we're going to do it right here. And you're going to see for yourself who could be available for the 49ers at the cutdown if they are looking for an additional wide receiver. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. We're also brought to you by LearnKey Upskill Academy and Claudaddy Arcades. More from them in a minute. Let's talk a little Niners. All right. This is an exercise that I used to do when I was with Arizona. We did this in the Canadian League, and this is what pro personnel guys do in the downtime. You say, well, how do these teams use all this time in the offseason? Well, everybody's got a different role, and the pro personnel department's got to have a really good handle on what the rest of the league looks like depth-wise, so they have a reasonable idea of who's going to be available at the cutdown when teams pare down to 53 men at the end of training camp. So I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to show you the Niners depth chart because today for this exercise, we're just going to look at the wide receiver core. And the Niner wide receiver core is really, really interesting this year. Why? Because it's both deep and thin at the same time. How could that be the case? Well, you're looking at the wide receiver core here, and they list 3 starting wide receivers: Ayuk, Pearsall, Jennings. Okay, so you've got your ones, then you got your twos, so you got 6 receivers there. You got your threes, so you got 9 receivers there, and then you got your fours. So you got technically the Niners have 12 receivers on their offseason roster, which is a ton, right? That's at least 3 more than most teams have. I mean, most teams are going to go up with 9 or 10 in camp. Niners are going to show up with 12. All right, they have 12 receivers. Okay, but then you look closer and you're like, well, wait, how many of them are actually going to be useful? And so let's go through the exercise. Russell, we'll go work from back to front. Russell Gage, I don't think he's NFL. I really don't. At this point, I think he's just hanging on. Tariq Owens, I don't think he's NFL. He's just too raw, doesn't have the great measurables. He's a good athlete. He's not a great athlete. He's a good prospect. He's not a great prospect. So I mean, he might be a practice squad guy for a year. He might emerge over the next year or two, but he's really raw, can't be depended on, and won't make the roster. So that's 2 guys. Then you have Malik Knowles. Malik Knowles at K-State was a really good kick returner, and he gives them some dynamic kick return ability. But and he's got some decent size, and he runs sub 4.5. It's not like he's an embarrassment by any stretch, but I think he's a borderline NFL guy. I really think his best traits are on special teams, and I just don't think he's going to make the roster. So the 4s, I don't think the 4s are going to make it. Now let's get to the 3s. It's Junior Berg and Isaiah Nayer, Isaiah Hodgins. Well, Hodgins is really interesting. He's a local kid. He's got great ball skills. He's got good size. He doesn't run very fast, but he's really could help you in the red zone quite a bit, and he's very sure-handed. Then you have Isaiah Nayer, who is just absolutely, destined for the practice squad. Super raw, but unbelievably talented. The guy that you would want to invest time in developing because he's so big, so fast, so much potential that I could see him headed for the practice squad. But I don't think there's any way he can make the roster because he's just so raw. He's just really, really raw. Then there's Junior Bergen, who thinks he's going to, his goal is to be a Hall of Famer. I don't want to say he thinks he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but his goal is to be a Hall of Famer. And he's a return guy. And we'll see. I mean, the Niners used a 7th-round pick on him. We'll see if he can make the team. So you got him. So he's interesting. And now you've got the rest of your receivers. And what do you have? Well, you have Brandon Ayuk, but he's not going to play, and he may not play until late November. So he's going to start the year on the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list. So put a line through him. It's like he doesn't count until November. Then you've got Ricky Pearsall, who's never really established himself, so he's still trying to get that done. You got Juwan Jennings, who's in a walk year. He's in a contract year, so he'll be plenty motivated. You've got Demarcus Robinson, who comes over from the Rams, and I thought he looked really, really good in the OTAs. He can get separation down the field. He's very refined as a route runner. He's a smart player. He's an underrated receiver, and he's going to help this team quite a bit. But he's also going to miss the first 3 games. So you can't really depend on Demarcus Robinson in September. So right now, if you have no injuries, your wide receiver core in September is going to be Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, the rookie 4th-round pick Jordan Watkins, last year's 4th-round pick Jacob Cowing, who looks fantastic, by the way. So you have those 4 guys are set week 1. And then after that, maybe you get Junior Bergen, who would be 5. I think they'll probably go for 5 or 6. So the Niners are probably going to need, and this is if nobody gets hurt. Juwan Jennings doesn't get hurt. Pearsall doesn't have a hammy. Watkins doesn't have a quad. They have no injuries at all to speak of. If they have no injuries at all to speak of, week 1 wide receiver core is Pearsall, Jennings, Watkins, Cowing, and Bergen. Well, that's not very good, first of all. And also that's leaning on a lot of unproven guys. And to me, that means that the 49ers are going to be one of those teams at the cutdown looking around the league to see, is there a wide receiver that could make the roster that would be better than Junior Bergen? Or is there a wide receiver that can make the roster in addition to Junior Bergen? So I think the Niners are going to be one of those teams looking around at wide receivers. So what I did last night is I went through the entire league. I went through the entire league's wide receiver core, and I just wanted to see who has what, how much depth. Are there teams that have too many wide receivers? This is how you figure out how you match up and how that depth chart is going to look at the cutdown. And I found 3 teams that have really deep group of wide receivers that really could provide an answer or could provide a wide receiver for the 49ers at the cutdown. Okay, so let's take a look at those 3 teams. I'll stop sharing the 49er depth chart, and we'll move on to some of these other teams. All right, the first team we're going to look at is Green Bay. So we'll share the screen on Green Bay's depth chart, and you can see what the Packers have cooking at wide receiver. And they're really deep at wide receiver. Okay, they have Romeo Doubs. They just drafted Matthew Golden out of Texas in the first round, and he's got a nice big contract, so he's there. Jaden Reed was their number 1 receiver last year. So those are their starting 3 receivers: Doubs, Golden, and Reed. Then they drafted Savion Williams out of TCU in the 3rd round, and he's making the roster because they drafted him in the 3rd round. And he's a beast. He's a massive run-after-the-catch guy. He's kind of like a bigger version of Debo. Then they also have Dontavion Wicks, who was their 5th-round pick in 2023, and he's really good. You got Christian Watson, who's probably going to be put on the injured list because of the injury he has, so he's out. So he won't count against their roster. So right now you got Doubs, Golden, Reed, Savion Williams, Dontavion Wicks. That's 5. That doesn't even include Christian Watson. Then they signed McCole Hardman away from Kansas City in the offseason. So, that could be receiver number 6 right there. And that could be it. They also signed Sam Brown from Miami after the draft, and they have Bo Melton here as well. Now, Bo Melton is a guy that I think if I'm the 49ers, I would have a lot of interest in. Bo Melton is a 5'11", 190-pound receiver from Rutgers. Green Bay has used him a little bit this offseason as a corner. They're trying him out as a corner because he helps them on special teams, and they're looking for a very versatile final wide receiver. And it's possible that Bo Melton will get that roster spot. So Green Bay's a team to watch for sure. Whether it's McCole Hardman, who's been really good against the 49ers, or Dontavion Wicks, or Romeo Doubs, or Bo Melton, most likely one of their wide receivers is going to shake free. And I would much rather have Bo Melton than, if I'm the 49ers, than Junior Bergen. I'd much rather have Romeo Doubs than Junior Bergen. And it may not be an either or. It may be you need Romeo Doubs and Bergen. You need Bo Melton and Bergen. So Green Bay is a definite team to study in the preseason at wide receiver because of the depth that they have. It's very likely there's talk that they may trade Romeo Doubs. There's talk that they may trade Christian Watson, but he's hurt right now. I think there's a very decent chance that if they wind up not making a trade, that Bo Melton winds up getting cut. And if Bo Melton gets cut, Bo Melton, I think, would be a really nice addition for the 49ers. All right, so that's Green Bay. We'll stop sharing on Green Bay. Give me another team where they have great depth at wide receiver. I'm going to go with the Jets, the New York Jets. Now, if you've heard me talk up Malachi Corley, I'm sure you're not going to want to hear this, but because I'm going to talk up Malachi Corley potentially again here. But the Jets receiving core is also very deep. Garrett Wilson is their number one. Alan Lazard is a trusted veteran. They have Josh Reynolds, who they just signed as a free agent, and obviously they like him quite a bit. They just signed Tyler Johnson, the former Buccaneer, former Minnesota Golden Gopher, and he's got good hands. The talk of the Jets OTAs was the Georgia rookie who runs in the 4.2s, Arian Smith. So Arian Smith has been talked up as a guy who looks really good. Then you look, they've got Malachi Corley. They also have Xavier Gibson. Xavier Gibson is their return guy, and he's very dynamic. I find it really hard to believe that they're going to cut Xavier Gibson. And then the undrafted guys, they picked up Jamal Pritchett from South Alabama. He's also a 4.3 burner who's, got a lot of speed and a lot of talent. So, and there's other guys here as well. They've got other receivers in camp. But if you just count who's really good on their team, Jamal Pritchett, Xavier Gibson, Malachi Corley, Arian Smith, Tyler Johnson, Garrett Wilson, Josh Reynolds, Alan Lazard. So that's 8 receivers right there. So I think there's a very good chance that Malachi Corley could be cut at the cutdown, and he's got a lot of Debo traits. And that would be a guy that I would absolutely pick up if I were the 49ers, because I think he does a lot of the things that Debo did, and I think he would be a great complement to what the 49ers already have. So that's team number 2. Check out the Jets. We'll stop sharing there on the Jets roster. They're team number 2 to look for. Okay, team number 3 to look for is the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are another team that's just, Brett Veach is a very good personnel guy, and they always have, great depth of talent, and their practice squad players are good. They develop their roster. They draft well. They sign a bunch of guys after the draft. Let's take a look at their wide receiver core. All right, so the Chiefs have, obviously, Xavier Worthy, who's got the greatest 40 time in the history of the Combine. He's now going into his second year, their first-round pick last year. They signed Hollywood Brown a year ago away from Arizona, so he's on the roster. You have Rashee Rice, who clearly their second-round pick from the 23 draft. He's established himself. He's on the roster. So those 3 are going to be on the roster. Then you've got Jalen Royals, who they drafted in the 4th round out of Utah State. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind he makes the roster. He's really good. You have Juju Smith-Schuster and Sky Moore, 2 veterans there. And I don't know that for sure they make the roster, but, Juju's got a great shot at it, you would think. And then you look at the depth behind that. They have Justin Ross from Clemson, Tyquan Thornton, who runs really well, Nico Remigio, the former, I believe, Cal Bear, Jason Brownlee, who's at Southern Miss, played with the Jets. And then they have Elijah Badger. And that's the guy that I want to talk about, Elijah Badger. Now, to me, this is a really, really interesting situation that the Niners should this would be my number 1 target. If I were the 49ers, this would be my number 1 target at receiver in the preseason. Don't trade for Gabe Davis. Don't trade for Keenan Allen. Don't trade for Amari Cooper. Don't trade for any of these old guys who, if you sign them, they're going to demand the ball and demand a certain amount of plays and this and that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Look at Kansas City. They do a really good job at developing their roster, and they got one in Elijah Badger. And I don't think he's going to make their roster. Once again, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, Jalen Royals. And they probably only keep 5 or 6 receivers. So those 4 spots are probably taken. Juju Smith-Schuster's probably getting one as well. So the rest of the guys on their roster are going for 1 spot. And I think there's a very decent chance that Elijah Badger winds up on, going put through waivers, cut at the cut down, and then tried. I think Kansas City's going to try to slide him onto their practice squad. And if I were the 49ers, I would not let them do it. I would pick him off. I really like Elijah Badger. Let's talk a little bit about Badger. 6'1", 200-pound receiver, pretty strong. He's a NorCal guy. So you know what? If the Niners picked him off, it would probably be a very popular thing. He's a South Sac guy. He's from South Sacramento. He went to Folsom High School. Okay, so he's a NorCal guy. And he's got natural receiver skills. This guy reminds me of a faster version of Juwan Jennings. This guy's a dog. This guy will fight you. He's got a lot of the skills that you're looking for. He's 6'1", he's 200 pounds, but he's strong. He's got 4.43 speed. So unlike Juwan Jennings, who ran close to 4.7, this guy's actually fast. 4.43, 35.5-inch vertical, shows lower body explosion. He's a natural wide receiver. He started off at Arizona State, and Arizona State used him in a different manner. He played 3 years for the Sun Devils. And he was a run after the catch guy. I mean, he really established himself as a great run after the catch receiver. Then he went to Florida and he made more plays down the field and a little bit less run after the catch, and they utilized him in a different way. But to me, Elijah Badger is an underrated receiver. I saw him throughout the year for the Gators. I caught at least 4 Gator games. This guy is an underrated receiver. Think Juwan Jennings. Good size, good strength, very natural receiver. Doesn't body catch it, plucks it with his hands. Pretty good route runner. I mean, he's got kind of refined routes, much more of a refined route runner than the average rookie wide receiver. And to me, that's the guy to get. I love the idea of Bo Melton or Romeo Doubs from Green Bay. Love the idea of Malachi Corley from the Jets. I think those guys would fit great. But Elijah Badger, I think, would be the kind of guy that you could pick off, and he could wind up being a 10-year 49er. And it's like, how did you get him? Well, Kansas City tried to sneak him through to their practice squad, and we were watching, and we said no, and we're going to pick him off. That's the guy that I would be looking for at the cutdown. If the 49ers, and I think it's highly likely that they're going to be needing a receiver, they got to be looking at Kansas City and Elijah Badger. All right. There's a couple other guys that I think are going to be interesting to watch as well. And then they may get caught up in a numbers game, and they very could be good, viable options for the 49ers at receiver. And there's a bunch of guys. I went through the entire league, but I'll give you a few guys that I think are going to get cut that I think the Niners might have interest in outside of those 3 guys. I mean, I love Corley, love Badger, love Bo Melton. Those would be the top 3 guys on the list. If any of those guys shake free in August. But New England has a pretty deep wide receiver core. I think there's a very good chance they cut Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne, I think, is going to be available in late August. Buffalo has a pretty deep receiving core, and they have Laviska Shenault. And Laviska Shenault had a 97-yard kickoff return touchdown with the Seahawks against the Niners. And he is a very good – he's kind of like a Debo. He's a running back. He's a receiver. He's a kick returner. He's got size. He's got great hands. And I think Shenault would be a fantastic final receiver to round out your receiver room because he's so versatile. You can play him at running back. You can play him at receiver. You can use him on special teams. So Kendrick Bourne, Laviska Shenault, Jerry Rice's kid, Brendan Rice, is going to be probably up against it to make the Chargers roster. The Chargers have brought in a number of receivers this offseason. They have kind of a glut of receivers. And the guy who might be on the outside looking in at the cutdown is Jerry's kid, Brendan Rice. And he's got some talent. So I'd be very interested in Brendan Rice. Another guy, Atlanta's got a very deep receiving core, and they signed San Jose State's Nick Nash. Nash is a very polished receiver. Now, he's not going to run away from anybody. He's not a speed merchant by any stretch. But as far as a last receiver, a guy who can absolutely run routes and make catches and has great ball skills, Nick Nash makes a lot of sense. There's a couple other guys that make a lot of sense. Detroit has a deep receiving core, and yet they have a guy named Isaac Tesla who played at Arkansas, who's a very good slot receiver with a lot of talent. And there's a chance that Detroit, that Tesla gets caught up in a numbers game, and they try to pass him through waivers to get him to the practice squad, and that would be another guy. I would be all over that guy. And then the last guy on the list is another guy who has local ties. Philadelphia has a very deep wide receiver room, and the jobs are going to be very difficult to come by. They signed Giles Jackson, the former UW Husky, who's a local kid. He went to Antioch. He's from Antioch. I don't think he went to Antioch High School, but he's from Antioch. And he was at the Niners local pro day, and he's a small slot receiver, but he's productive and he's fast. And that would be a nice practice squad receiver for the 49ers. So, once again, just to wrap this up, at the cut down, there'll be a number of receivers cut. Niners pro personnel department will be all over it, I'm sure. Giles Jackson, interesting. Isaac Tesla, interesting. Nick Nash, interesting. Brendan Rice, interesting. Laviska Shenault, interesting. Kendrick Bourne, interesting. But the three guys that I would be looking for and targeting to see if they somehow hit the waiver wire or are deemed available via trade for a nominal day 3 pick late at the cutdown would be Malachi Corley of the Jets, Elijah Badger of the Chiefs, and Bo Melton of the Packers. And all I would say is, as the Niners pare their roster down, look to see what other receivers get cut. But, yeah, that's who I will have at the cut down. And I'll do another breakdown on this for both the cornerback position and the defensive end position. It takes a little time to go through every single roster in the NFL and really count and see who's where and see who's healthy and really check out a depth chart. Take some time. Take some investigative tendencies there. But as far as wide receivers at the cut down, the three guys I'll be looking for: do the Jets cut Malachi Corley? Do the Chiefs try to squeeze Elijah Badger onto the practice squad? And do the Packers wind up cutting Bo Melton? And if any of those three guys become available, if I'm the 49ers, I absolutely pounce and I put them on my roster. All right, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles as well. Also, thanks to Claw Daddy Arcades. They're a great follow on Instagram at Claw_Daddy_Arcades to find a location near you. They've got a location opening this summer at Capitola Mall in the South Bay, and another location opening down at Visalia Mall in the Central Valley. Claw Daddy Arcades, a proud sponsor of the Krug Show, and also thanks to LearnKey Upskill Academy. The video sponsored by them. They're an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less. Whether you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, it doesn't matter what field. They offer over 30 certification programs to help you take that next step in your professional career. They've been in business for 37 years. They've helped over 200,000 students. They place about 100 every month in well-paying jobs. So thanks to LearnKey Upskill Academy for sponsoring this video, and thanks to all of you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.